LoadedRadio.com.
Hey there, metalheads and goth enthusiasts. It's Scott Penfold from Loaded Radio and LoadedRadio.com. Today we're diving into the world of one of the most iconic frontmen in metal history. It's Peter Steele of Type O Negative. Whether you're a longtime fan or just discovering the great man's unique blend of gothic metal, I guarantee you'll walk away with some new facts to deepen your appreciation. So maybe grab a glass of red wine, crank up some October Rust, and let's get into 13 things you probably didn't know about Peter Steele. Okay, let's start with a fun little quirk. Peter Steele was actually left-handed, but he played bass right-handed. So how did that happen? Well, back in his early band Aggression, before Type O Negative, Peter was rocking a left-handed rhythm guitar. But when the band needed a bassist, left-handed bass guitars were just way too expensive. So what did Peter do? He picked up a right-handed bass and taught himself how to play it. The result? That iconic low-end rumble that became the backbone of Type O Negative sound. Just another example of Peter's adaptability and commitment to making music.
Number 12.
Now, before Peter was gracing stages with his towering presence, he was working a totally unmetal job. He was a parks worker for New York City, and we're not talking about some cushy desk job either. Peter maintained the Brooklyn Heights Promenade, drove garbage trucks, operated steamrollers, and eventually became a park supervisor. Believe it or not, he often said those were some of the happiest days of his life. It gave him a sense of routine and normalcy in an otherwise chaotic existence. Kind of makes you picture him in a parks uniform, doesn't it? Gothic, but practical.
Number 11.
Long before Type O Negative, Peter was in a band called Fallout. That was formed during his high school days. And Fallout was Peter's real first foray into performing heavy music. They were a mix of punk and metal, playing small gigs and recording a few demos. While Fallout didn't achieve commercial success, it was a crucial stepping stone for Peter. This is where he honed his stage presence and developed his musical style. A little mix of doom, punk, and rebellion that would later evolve into his signature sound.
Number 10.
Now, if Fallout laid the foundation, Carnivore was where Peter really pushed boundaries. Formed in 1983, Carnivore was raw, aggressive, and completely unapologetic. Their blend of thrash metal and hardcore punk wasn't just heavy, it was in-your-face, lyrically tackling taboo topics like violence, war, and societal decay. Carnivore would drop 2 albums, Carnivore, which came out in 1985, and Retaliation, which dropped in 1987. These were underground hits and cemented Peter's reputation as a fearless performer. Plus, let's be honest, it was the perfect lead-up to the gothic doom vibes of Type O Negative.
Number 9.
After Carnivore disbanded, Peter teamed up with Sal Abrascato, Josh Silver, and Kenny Hickey to form a new project. Now, they flirted with some names, like Repulsion and Sub-Zero, before finally setting on one we all know and love, Type O Negative. And the rest, they say, is history. The band combined gothic rock, doom metal, and Peter's dark, sarcastic humor into something completely unique. Peter himself would often refer to the band as the Drab Four, poking fun at their gloomy aesthetic. You gotta love a guy who can laugh at himself.
Number 8.
Now, as you know, Peter Steele was an imposing figure. Now, when I say imposing, I mean, at 6'7" and over 300 pounds, Peter Steele was a literal giant in the world of metal. But don't let his intimidating looks fool you. Behind that towering frame was a man with a sharp wit and a goofy sense of humor. Bandmates and friends often described Peter as a big softie who loved to crack jokes and keep things light backstage. So while his onstage persona was all brooding and gothic offstage, he was more likely to be making everyone laugh. A gentle giant in every sense of the word.
Number 7.
Alright, you probably knew this was coming, but Peter Steele's brief stint as a Playgirl centerfold. Yeah, you heard that right. Peter Steele posed nude in Playgirl magazine in 1995 after the success of Bloody Kisses. But here's the kicker. Peter later regretted it when he found out Playgirl's readership was mostly male. He joked it was more than upsetting that so many guys had it. Now, Peter wasn't homophobic per se, but he was a little surprised. But he was confident enough to eventually laugh it off.
Number 6.
Now, Peter wasn't just a musical icon. He also popped up on TV from time to time. From the Howard Stern Show to Ricky Lake to the Jerry Springer Show, Peter's personality shone as much as his music. In 2003, he even ventured into acting, appearing on an episode of the HBO prison drama Oz, and later had small roles in indie films like Dirtbags, Armpit of Metal, and Bad Acid.
Number 5.
Did you know Peter Steele was a huge New York Rangers fan? You might have even seen him rocking a Rangers jersey on stage, but even more endearing, his love for animals, especially cats. Peter's compassionate side earned him extra love from fans. He once said his pets helped him keep grounded during the darker moments of his life. Truly a gentle giant.
Number 4.
You know, Peter Steele wasn't shy about discussing his struggles with mental health and addiction. He openly battled severe depression and substance abuse, which often influenced his lyrics and public persona. Songs like Everyone I Love Is Dead and World Coming Down are really heartbreaking reflections of these struggles. Here's Typo Negative's Kenny Hickey and Johnny Kelly talking about just how bad drug addiction got within the band, particularly when working on the album Life Is Killing Me.
You know, like he was in a bad spot, like, you know, like physically and mentally, you know, because he was drinking a lot and he was, you know, like with the drugs and stuff. And it was, you know, it was hard for him. It was hard for him to like really apply himself.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, and that's, you know, like that was the sad part about the record, you know, and that, you know, like amongst the other things, like, you know, like there was a lot of like infighting, you know, like, like, it was just a bad time for the band. And I was really surprised that we could actually come up with the record that we did at that point. Meanwhile, you know, like we were in bad shape, you know, like the band was injured.
Number 3.
All right, let's talk about Typo Negative's second album, The Origin of the Feces, more particularly the album cover. Now, it originally featured a provocative picture, a close-up of Steele's own posterior, and I'm talking, you know, serious close-up here, if you know what I mean. The cover art was later replaced with a black and green version of a 1493 painting called The Dance of Death. But the album title itself was a playful reference to Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species, once again showcasing Steele's dark sense of humor. But if you want to see that original album cover, that's something you're going to have to Google yourself.
Number 2.
You know, Peter had one unforgettable vehicle, a heavily modified 1985 Pontiac Grand Prix that he named Handsome. Now, he raised it up on swamp tires with 33-inch ones on the back and 31-inch ones in the front, giving it a rugged, lifted look. He went all out with the modifications on this, cutting out the wheel wells and removing the bumpers and replacing them with welded beams and chains. Now, it originally had a 350 transmission, but Steele upgraded the engine to a tractor engine, giving the car intense, powerful rumble. He even installed a PA system so he could yell at people as he drove by. And the ultimate finishing touch, he fitted a Long Island Railroad train horn in the car, powered by a compressor in the trunk. When he hit the horn, it was tuned to the opening riff of Black Sabbath's iconic song, Black Sabbath. Here's Kenny Hickey and Johnny Kelly talking about Peter's car.
It was when he had his Grand Prix and he cut out the wheel wells and he had the truck tires forced on it. And they would periodically fall off the car while he was driving. Like every other night, we would leave for the rehearsal room from working for 6 hours or whatever. Me and Johnny walk out, and there was Peter and Josh on the corner, jacking his car up, trying to stick the tires back on. We're like, "Good night, guys."
We just drive away. You don't need 4 guys to change a tire. That's pathetic. You don't need us.
Number 1.
And finally, did you know that Typo Negative's last live performance actually took place on Halloween night? It was October 31st, 2009, at Harpo's in Detroit, Michigan. Drummer Johnny Kelly later recalled that no one realized it would be the band's final show. Reflecting on the night, he said, "We just stayed up late, hanging out, singing Elton John songs along the highway. Nobody knew it was the last show we'd ever play." And that wraps up 13 things about Peter Steele you probably didn't know. Whether it's his humor or his music or his larger-than-life personality, Peter Steele continues to hold a special place in the hearts of fans. If you've got your own memories of Peter or favorite Typo Negative moments, share them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and to hit the bell so you don't miss any of our deep dives into the legends of metal. Until next time, keep the music loud and the vibe Gothic. I'm Scott Penfold for Loaded Radio and LoadedRadio.com.
Loaded.